Good evening, everyone, and friends joining us here in Vienna, and everyone tuning in online. Welcome to the World Usability Day Vienna 2025. Tonight, we are joining a global community in more than 100 cities to celebrate usability, human-centered design, and building products that actually work for people. World Usability Day started back in 2005. And this year, we're celebrating 20 years of putting users first. Each year has a shared theme. For 2025, it's emerging technologies and the human experience. This is the first time I have organized World Usability Day Vienna because I was particularly interested in the topic, as two great products were launched here in Vienna this year. And I'm very proud to have been able to win over the founders and contributors of these products as speakers for today's event. That means looking at assistive technology, augmented reality, virtual reality, spatial and multimodal interfaces, not as a shiny demos, but also as tools that must be trustworthy, inclusive, and responsible, so they improve real lives. Our plan this evening is simple. Hear from practitioners turning research into practice, see how emerging tech can expand access, not limit, and leave with concrete next steps you can apply tomorrow. Whether you're a designer, a developer, a researcher, a product lead student, or just curious, you're in the right place. A big shout out to our sponsors, für die Accessibility in ICT, Hilfsgemeinschaft der Blinden- und Sehschwachen Österreichs, Google Developer Groups, and GDG Vienna, and the World Usability Day, who made this event possible. Before we begin, a quick note on our code of conduct and Q&A. We want a welcoming, inclusive space for everyone. Please be kind, be respectful, and assume good intent. But remember that impact matters. We have zero tolerance for harassment, hate speech, personal attacks, or disruptive behavior. If you see or experience an issue, please message a moderator in the chat or via the contact on our event page. We'll follow up promptly. For the Q&A, use the YouTube live chat. Type Q at the start at the speaker's name and keep it concise. Our moderators will group questions and pass them to the stage. Please avoid spam, self-promotion, or off-topic threats. Thank you for helping us keeping this event safe, focused, and friendly. The full code of conduct is linked on our website. Now let's get started. Let's move on to today's agenda. First, Christine will briefly introduce our speakers. Then Katharina will start with a product presentation, XREye, and tell us her story of how an idea became a product that is now an indispensable part of the project world. Afterwards, Laura will explain how Sixth Sense is not only a means to an end, but also made it to the London Fashion Week as a necessity. For our panel discussion afterwards on today's topic, we welcome three more pioneers in assistive technology and inclusive web development, Ibrahim, Ellie, and Alessandro. So get your questions ready. Please take it from here, Christina.
Thanks, Julia, and welcome everybody. My name is Christine Wahlmüller-Schiller. I'm working in my professional life as an expert at the EIT, also the Institute of Technology at the Center for Technology Experience. And besides, I'm working in Women in ICT, so it's our target to make women more visible and to connect women in the ICT sector, and also in accessibility in ICT, which was just named. So our target is to make digital barriers, no digital barriers, and to connect also experts in this field. That's why I'm very proud to moderate this evening. And we have five guests here, top experts in the field of accessibility. And I'm very proud to welcome also here our five guests for this evening. So first of all, I want to introduce Katharina Krösl. She is founder and CEO of XREye and senior researcher, senior researcher specialized in extended reality and augmented reality. She has a PhD in computer science from the Technical University of Vienna, and she is also a Women in ICT ambassador, and she founded XREye I think when?
This year.
January. This year. So it's quite quick new, and we are very proud to have you here, Katharina. Thank you. Welcome. On my other side, on my right side, for you on the left side on the screen, I suppose you can find Laura Wissiak. Laura is a speaker and panelist. She's a chief research officer and tech researcher at Hopetech. You will tell us later on at your work of Hopetech, which is very interesting. And you're very, very specialized and engaged in the field of accessibility, and also a founding member of Accessibility in ICT, as well as Katharina as well. So I'm very proud also to have you here, Laura, and you're really a perfect expert, and also named at Forbes under 30. So she's really, really excellent. Welcome, Laura. And we have three guests. I have also to introduce Alessandro, of course. Yeah, Alessandro Molone is originally from Italy, but I think 20 years now in Austria. Alessandro has a PhD in computer science from the Technical University in Graz, and then he changed to Qualcomm, very interesting, for 3 years, and afterwards, 2015, he founded Like Magic. And Alessandro, you will tell us afterwards what is Like Magic. I think it's really, really also very interesting, and welcome also, Alessandro.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now, changing to our online guests, very estimated guests. First of all, it's Ibrahim Cherradi. He is CEO and founder of Keynoa Technologies. And in his professional life, he's working at the Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna, I think since 1987. So it's a really, really long time, but also very engaged in the field of accessibility. And he founded Keynoa in 2020. Welcome, Ibrahim. I don't see you, but I hope you're here and can listen to us. And then, last but not least, we want to introduce Eli Savatia. He's founder and CEO of Signverse, and very, very specialized and very engaged since young years. So I read that he invented things in the early age of 13 years and was an inventor and technical engaged person since these very early years. And he's coming from Kenya. And he's also the youngest World Bank African Drone Youth Scholar and has got many, many awards. So I think he's also a very, very interesting person to talk afterwards. So very proud that you're here. So with this, I think we could start with our first talk right now. And I ask you, Katharina, to go on with your talk, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the very nice introduction, Christina. I'm very happy to be here today and to present my company XREye, which I founded this year in January. And I will just tell you a bit what we do and why we do it. And actually, I will jump right into it, into the why of things. So we all know what this is, right? It's an image of a typical escape route sign. It shows the shortest path out of a building in case of an emergency. And there are norms and regulations which tell you the size such a sign should have, and the contrast, in which height it has to be mounted, and at which distance to the next sign, to ensure that you have always one sign inside that you can read. But what if you have visual impairment? And suddenly, this escape route sign looks like this, and it's harder to read, or even almost impossible. So this is a problem that many people face today. Or another example, let's assume you have to take some medication, and you have to be sure to take the right one. But it could actually look like this. So now it gets really hard, and potentially you end up in a dangerous situation if you take the wrong medication. Or another more trivial example, let's say you want to order your favorite food and the website looks like this, and it's maybe not even possible to use it with a screen reader. then yeah, you're out of luck. You don't get your favorite pizza. So today we are here because it's the World Usability Day. And this is a global event that happens all around the world with a common objective: to ensure that services and products that are important to life are easier to access and simpler to use. So this actually means designing a world that is usable and accessible for everyone. But as we have just seen, and as I'm sure we all know, not everything is equally usable and accessible for everyone. And we really need to be aware of this. More than 2.2 billion people worldwide are affected by eye diseases or vision impairments, according to the World Health Organization. And many of these eye diseases are actually age-related, which means because we are living in an aging population, these numbers rise every year. If you look at the global perspective, we can see that about 1.8 billion people have age-related farsightedness. So this might be something that you can correct with glasses or lenses, but there are also other eye conditions that cannot be as easily corrected. If you have cataracts, you could get cataract surgery where your lens is replaced by an artificial one, but still it's eye surgery and not everyone likes to do it. If you have age-related macular degeneration, for example, like 10.4 million people worldwide do, it's a progressive disease that really impacts your vision. And there is some medication, some treatment that can help you to stop the progression and maybe also get some improvement for your vision. But to the best of my knowledge, there's no absolute cure, at least not yet. There's a lot of research in this area. So there are many eye diseases like this who can really impact your vision and your daily life. And if you look at the numbers in Austria, so these were the most recent numbers I could find. And according to them, about 3% of our population have permanent vision problems, even though they are wearing glasses or lenses. And women are actually slightly more affected than men. So we have about 1% of the population with mild vision impairment, 1.2% with moderate vision impairment, 0.7% with severe vision impairment, and about 2,000 people say that they are blind. So this is really a significant portion of our population that we should take into account when we design our cities, our buildings, our lighting systems, emergency signage, medical packages or products, or websites or other digital services. It's often hard to really understand how these impairments affect sight if you don't have a vision impairment yourself. And that is actually where XREye comes in, a software to simulate eye conditions in extended reality. And here you can see it in action. So unlike flat images or textual descriptions, XREye actually provides a first-hand experience of eye diseases, such as age-related macular degeneration, as you can see here. Or we have another example of our simulation of cornea disease, which people describe as like looking through opal glass. Or here you can see our simulation of cataracts. So by simply putting on a virtual reality headset, users can really step into the shoes of someone with a vision impairment and experience how different conditions affect sight, navigation, and daily life. We simulate vision impairments in extended reality, and that includes virtual reality, augmented reality, and 360 images. So virtual reality is basically you find yourself in a virtual, completely computer-generated world, so a 3D model. Augmented reality, you can see here an example where you would see your actual surroundings as they are recorded by the front-facing cameras of the virtual reality device. And we also use 360-degree images. So these are 360-degree photographs, which present a very realistic-looking environment. Here you can see some examples of the simulations we have done so far. We have cornea disease, age-related macular degeneration, achromatopsia, which is total color blindness. We simulated diabetic retinopathy and the severe form with diabetic macular edema, and also 3 types of cataracts, nuclear, cortical, or I hope. Yes, so this is short-sightedness. And you can see if you move close to something, it becomes sharp, and everything that's a bit farther away is blurry. So this is here simulated in our virtual environment, in virtual reality. And we have another example of the diabetic retinopathy simulation. So this is an eye disease that people with diabetes sometimes get, where you have hemorrhages in your retina that then create these dark spots and distortions and reduced contrast in this area. And there's also another example, so the more severe version with diabetic macular edema, where basically your central vision is affected as well. And because your central vision is affected, it also means that your contrast vision is affected, and your color vision, because everything then looks a bit washed out. And our simulations are very adjustable, very flexible. And this is something that's very important for us, because we don't want to simulate like a stereotypical low vision or just a stereotypical AMD simulation or whatever. It's important to understand that vision impairments are experienced very differently from person to person. So the severity levels differ. Also, the individual symptoms, they might be very different between people. And this is why we decided to have this very adjustable simulation. So we combine different effects that simulate each symptom of an eye disease. And we have like one simulation parameter per effect. So we combine this into one simulation. And the interesting thing is that we can adjust it at runtime. So when we show someone the simulation, we can just modify it, show different levels of severity that show that different symptoms might affect you more or less, and just increase the understanding for these vision impairments. Now, how does this look in action? Here I have an example of a company internal event where we were booked to basically run a demo booth for a day and show people how these impairments affect sight, and explain to them what these vision impairments do to your visual acuity and affect your daily life. And we really got very, very positive feedback. So people say that it's amazing tech. They feel like it can help families understand what their affected family members are experiencing. And they found it a very insightful experience. And almost everyone said that they would really highly recommend our simulation to a friend or colleague, which of course makes us very happy. And here's another example from the Diversity Ball in Vienna this September. So we were booked to exhibit XREye at the ball and show attendees our simulations. So this was a very cool experience. And we also asked users to fill out a survey afterwards, after they tried our simulations. And 87% said that they would recommend XREye to a friend or colleague. 100% of users who tested our simulations said they gained new understanding of vision loss. And the realism was also rated quite high. And almost everyone said that the experience increased their awareness. We also asked people what they thought, which use cases, where would XREye be helpful. And most users said that they think the strongest potential for XREye would be in use cases related to education and training, healthcare communication, or accessible design. And here's another example that I brought today. This is an image of our achromatopsia simulation. And I very much like to show this when we do such demos, such events, because I think it shows quite well the misconception we sometimes have about vision impairments. Because if you don't know about the disease and someone tells you, well, I'm colorblind, most people assume this means, okay, this person is just seeing everything in black and white. But that's not it. That's not the whole story. You know, in your eyes, in your retina, you have different photoreceptors. You have cones and rods. And the cones are used for color vision. And most of them are located in the fovea, which is the area that we use for sharp vision. So if they don't work, it means we don't see color, but it also means we don't see sharp anymore. So everything's blurry. And the rods have to take over for the missing cones. But usually in a healthy eye, you would use rods just in twilight. So they are more for seeing contrast, or in low light scenes, they are very, very sensitive to light, which means if you have to use them during daylight, they are so sensitive that they create these uncomfortable glaring effects. This is why you oftentimes see people walking around with dark glasses who have this total color blindness. But just to mention, it's a quite rare condition, but I think it just shows that it's different than we might assume. And here's another example that we showed at the Diversity Ball, actually. This is a 360-degree image of industrial building. And this is how it looks like for a person with normal sight. But this is how it could look like for a person with cornea disease. So people often describe this as, it looks like as you're looking through opal glass, basically. And as you can imagine, with that kind of vision, it's quite hard to orient yourself and find your way around in this environment. And we like to show that something as simple as a visual guidance system on the floor can make such a difference for many people. Because even if your vision is poor, just having these green, yellow stripes on the floor can help you find your way. And here are some impressions from past events where we showed XREye to people. We usually have a large screen or projector at the booth as well. So if people just walk by, or they watch or don't want to try the simulations themselves, they can just see what the person wearing the VR headset is seeing at the same time. So you can engage a broader audience. As a company, we provide different services. One would be these event experiences that I just talked about, where we come with all the hardware equipment, we set up the booth, and we let people try our simulations and guide them through the experience. We also offer awareness trainings for like company internal training sessions. And we will also sell software licenses for our vision impairment simulations. At XREye, we want to help people see why accessibility matters. Because only when we understand the challenges of others can we design a world that includes everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katharina, for this very impressive presentation. Should we add some questions, or do we have some questions, or should we do the questions afterwards, Julia?
If someone in the audience has questions, we could also ask
them. Okay. So do we have some questions right now also from the chat, perhaps? I don't know. No, we don't have. My question would be, how would you want to develop it further right now? Because now you have established all the simulated all diseases, but the question would be, what's the next step right now? What are your plans?
We have a lot of plans. That's of course
always fine.
One thing we are looking into is actually advancing our simulations that you can also import real medical data. So like OCT scans, or you could import visual acuity values, contrast values, and basically simulate the vision of a real person, so to say. So to make them even more realistic. Of course, we want to add a lot more simulations. So we have a long list of what we would like to include. But we also see accessible design is a very interesting avenue for XREye. So basically enabling people to import 3D environments of, for example, buildings that are still in planning phase. And then having the option to walk through this model of this building with simulated eye diseases. Because, there are these standards and norms that tell you how you should make a building accessible and how you have to have visual guidance systems. But there are always edge cases that you might not find. And it's just different if you can experience it for yourself, like walk through this building with simulated vision impairments and just see for yourself, is there something that's not working, or are there some things that could be improved to actually enhance the accessibility?
Of course. So it would also be a great opportunity to talk with public institutions, let's say, or hospitals, for example.
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm. So on the one hand, we really think XREye could be very helpful for supporting this accessible design, especially in the public sector. But also when you mention hospitals, I think it's a very interesting tool for medical education, so to educate medical and healthcare personnel.
Mm-hmm. Do we have such corporations, or do we plan such corporations? Talking about corporations?
We're talking with different partners. So we are in the process of building corporations. So if anyone is interested, please get in touch with us.
Of course, it would be a good opportunity to get in touch with Katharina, because it's really impressive what you did in simulating and understanding and make the people most aware what is visual impairment. Yeah, there are so many diseases you showed us now, very impressive in videos as well. So I think it's a really good and great work you did. so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, I estimate your work, you know that, and also the work at events like University Ball, or I remember you were also demonstrating the solution at the Software Day in Vienna at the Economic Chamber. So I think it's very useful to get also to raise the awareness for emerging technologies. I think this is also our task here in all the group, and also in the Hilfsgemeinschaft der Blinden Sehscharfen, where we are right now at the moment. This is very important to raise the awareness and to give the people the impression, and also to see the simulated diseases. Yeah.
Yes, we feel like you only really understand what it means like to have a vision impairment if you can experience it for yourself at least once.
Yeah, and I think it's always difficult to get this impression in your head if you don't see it and if you don't have your own experience to be visual impaired. I have to admit, I was also the age, how do you call it, foresightedness?
In the age-related
foresightedness. Thank you very much. I have this because I have to admire, I'm 50 plus, so it's not so easy to get along with this. And so many people are visually impaired and you don't know that, for example. So it's always important to get the sight of a person who is affected with this disease.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thanks a lot. And with this, we will discuss later on. We will continue our discussion. And I'm looking back on my other side right now. And I would ask Laura to continue. Let's see. Your talk will be about the sixth sense, helping blind and visually impaired people make journeys independently. And I'm very curious to hear what you will present us today.
Yes, thank you.
The stage is yours.
Thank you. So as we've already heard from Katharina, structural environment is one thing, but it takes time to build something accessible, to figure out where the issues lie. So in the meantime, we also need individual solutions that serve one individual at a time. Hence the sixth sense. And I have to admit, it is not very new concept actually to say like, okay, we're gonna take tech and build something that helps blind people see. That has been done before and it didn't go well, which is why we periodically have these startups popping up. Good to know, because honestly, I have to admit, like a bit of expectation management here. This was also the idea behind Hopetech at the start, to do something, make something that would replace the white cane. But it took us exactly 2 talks with people who use the white cane to figure out, hey, nobody wants this actually. Maybe we should reconsider what the real problem here is. So back to the drawing board we went, and we figured out, okay, the white cane is reliable. This is why everyone loves it, but it also has some things that it can't really detect, meaning anything that is actually above knee, maybe a bit higher, depending on how tall you are, how long your white cane is. But overall, there are some things that can be enhanced. So we looked into what are those things. And then we decided to, okay, let's go back to drawing board. Let's actually listen to our users, ask them what they're doing, where they're taking the white canes, what their daily journeys look like, and how they navigate everyday life, and where they see room for improvement. Because if you actually listen to your users, you will find out, okay, there are plenty of things that don't go well yet. In Vienna, we are quite blessed with a good infrastructure, a good environment, a stable environment, where you can independently navigate already. We have the infrastructure. It is quite accessible compared to other bigger cities in particular, but as we do in Vienna, we do not accept that as the best it is. We always keep complaining, and I think it's a good trait in us, because this means we also don't settle for just anything. We want to improve, and we want to make it better, because there's still room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. Now, for the sixth sense, we went back to the drawing board. We had a lot of ideas of what it could look like, actually. So let's talk a bit about the hardware, because a product isn't just software or hardware, it is the whole package. We had a plethora of ideas what we do. So we started with something that looked like a pebble that you could maybe put back in. Alessandro is snickering next to me because he remembers those days. So we had a plethora of ideas of what it could look like and how it could be worn. Some were glasses with cameras, some were a vibrating jacket, some were a little pebble that would go into your pocket and help you navigate left, right. Then we went more to the end stage where it was a neck wearable, but as you can see, it's still looking very techy on the photos, also due to it being an early prototype and nothing polished. But there were a lot of ideas. And slowly we moved on and went to something so, okay, if we're talking about navigation, we kind of also have to figure out where do people want to go? Like, what is their front, what is their back? And we kind of branched off into something more head-mounted so that we would know, okay, this is the direction the person is facing, so that we're not doing the thing that Google Maps does with every one of us whenever we try to switch from one type of transportation to the next, where it can tell us if we need to go left or right, and we just keep on walking for 5 meters until it tells you, nope, you're going in the wrong direction. So we kind of counteracted that by deciding, okay, let's let the device know which direction we are facing. And that is how we slowly get to something that is worn around your collar, that would know which direction you're facing because it sits around your neck. At the same time, it looks rather unassuming, not so tech heavy if you're looking from afar. It was a deliberate decision to build it looking like headphones, inspired by very minimal and quite modern headphones, in order to keep it less stigmatizing, give it less of a techy feel and more of a lifestyle product. Because after all, even if you want something to work well, to be well used every day, you have to make sure it is also compatible with your users every day. And what I noticed is when I talked to people, a lot of them didn't have explicit preferences of what they want the device to look like, but I often heard two opinions. One was, I don't really care much for fashion, like it's not my thing. And the other one was, I want to look put together. Like I want to look like, okay, nothing too much, nothing too fancy, but like business casual is fine for me. The unsaid part between those two was that it's usually not coming from different people. Like those statements can come from the same person. And if you don't listen closely, you might misinterpret this and think like, okay, the people don't really care what they look like. That's not true. Blind people care very much what they look like. They do want to look good. Everyone does. And even if you don't use fashion as a way to express yourself, if you just use it as a way to blend into your everyday surroundings, it is still a deliberate choice. And this is how we decided to make it okay. Let's just make it look like headphones, make it look unassuming so that even if you're using it with your white cane, as soon as you step into a cafe, let's say, you sit down, you fold up your white cane, you can still keep it around your neck for backup, and nobody would know that you're wearing assistive tech. It wouldn't look spacey, it wouldn't look out of place, clunky, or heavy. It would just look like any other person who's wearing headphones at a busy cafe. Now, again, as I've already mentioned, it also comes with the advantage that the sensors will know where you're facing, so it can give you more precise directions. Are you going to the left? Are you going to the right? Where is your left? What hand of the clock do you need to go to? And all of these little details that may seem quite maybe obvious and maybe unassuming, but which can really, really enhance the user experience, because it's those details that in everyday life situations, in busy transits, just give you so much quality of life, because this is the information you don't get if you don't have sight. But I have to always end with the but actually, because there's so much. We didn't end up with this design just because it looks cool. It was also because, as you remembered, we had a variety of things. The glasses, we had the vest, and all of them didn't work for a specific reason. One of those reasons, and a huge contributing factor, was intersectionality. Because when we think about disability, we tend to think about I think every one of us has still one stigmatized image, like one stereotype that is the first thing your mind goes to, which is not bad per se. We just have to be aware about this bias and consciously think about the other perspectives that draw into this. In the case of any wearable, I would say, it is intersectionality, because often the people who help shape these wearables are mostly men, maybe because they just have more time on their hands. They don't have care duties. They are more flexible to come to a user trial. They have the time and they have the confidence to participate in it. But after a while, when you notice, okay, all of our user testers are men, you have to ask yourself, where are the women? Where are they and where can we find them? So we did our best to actually go out of our way and specifically test with women to get their feedback too, which led us to the current shape, because it is something that is unisex. It can be paired with any type of clothing. It doesn't give you a specific gendered look. It's just serving the user as it should be. And I have to pull out a little bit of statistics on this too, because it did actually amazing when I looked into it, how many women with disabilities there are. Katja already said it. We actually have more women with disabilities, not just blindness, but overall disabilities, compared to men, which in part may also be due to the increased life expectancy of women. But again, it's really stunning that if you don't look for these things in particular, you might just think, okay, the stereotypical disabled person is a man, and usually a white man in like 50 plus, I assume. But you really have to also look at the data and pull out your little blind spots. As I've already said, we have done functionality, we have done the hardware, but the product is only one part of the whole user experience. So let's take a little detour and go to online communication, because this is how you are going to use or reach your users. You can have such a great product. If nobody knows about it, nobody's going to use it. And the good thing is, in our current day and age, the digital tools we have are great. I think all of the platforms here have accessibility features. So you have alt text on LinkedIn, on Blue Sky, on Twitter, I think too, on Instagram. You have it everywhere. You just need to know where it is. But you also need to know how to write good alt text. I have brought you some examples for this, because online communication is still, well, online. So we can always keep in mind the web content accessibility guidelines still apply. We just have to tweak them a bit and apply a bit of context. But in theory, it's still the same thing. You still can look out for color contrast and use the same tools. The web in color contrast checker, for example. You still have image descriptions and alt text. You might have to adjust how you write them depending on the context. Like, for example, LinkedIn might require kind of a different image description than your personal Instagram account, depending on who you're trying to reach as your target audience. And abbreviations, they always work the same, because that's just language. So web content accessibility guidelines, still WCAG. But then we also have some special cases. So a bit of extra curriculum for social media that I haven't yet seen very specific guidelines on how to do it, but there are certain good practices that we kind of started to agree on within the accessibility community. For example, using Pascal case or Camel case for hashtags, or the screen reader friendly use of emojis, meaning use them sparingly, don't litter your sentences with them. But all of those things, they might not seem intuitive at the first time. You have to really go out and look for them and learn those best practices. But once you learn them, you will notice, oh, it's not that much actually. Like, it makes sense. And if you get to know your users better, they will also give you a bit more of how you can better reach them. So while this may be the basics, and I really want everyone to keep in mind, like, the web content guidelines are just the basics that everyone has agreed on. Those are the very, very minimum that works for the most people. It doesn't mean that it's the best we can do. There's always something we can do better and something we can, well, also explore together with our community. And in particularly, it's a German example, but I wanted to give you an example of bad accessibility and why we should never leave our alt text to chance, because Instagram has this neat trick that if you don't write your alt text yourself, it will fill something in. and it will take its best guess at this. But in this case, in particular, it did quite well with recognizing what the text is in there. It just, for some reason, found that there was more text than is written on the picture. So you will notice that it says a photo shared by Forbes, Austria on July 4, 2025, tagging at Forbes Swiss. So far, so well. Then it says maybe it could be a person on there and the text, and then it's a word in Thai. Forbes, Japanese millionaire, gives away so and so much money. But what is this mystery word that is written? Well, they just wrote porn in Thai. For some reason. I mean, for some reason, I think I can actually see why, because there's something written on his cap, and it might have recognized that as the Thai word for porn. But these are the things that you just might end up with if you don't author your own alt text. So if you remember one thing, always write your own alt text. Take ownership of your alt text. Then moving on to the offline materials, because even in our digital world, not everything happens online, and not everyone is on social media or is browsing social media as relentlessly as we might be in this live stream here. So this was also quite a learning journey for us. The Sixth Sense our first idea was, okay, let's take the brand colors, let's slap them on a box, put a picture on there, and see how it goes. And it had a whooping color contrast of 3.13:1, which I think we can all agree is not the best. But it also was quite straining on the eye to look at something that's just so orange through and through. So I take up orange, not the best idea. This made me actually look into what do we do. Here you can also see a bit of how it looks in, well, printed out. And it's not the worst, but we can do some better. Especially if you look at what we can find with best practices. Again, I haven't found very specific guidelines on this, but these were the best practices I have covered throughout different media, not just packaging material, but also different types of print material. And surprise, surprise, they are also quite similar to what the web content guidelines say. So use a font size between 16 to 18. Personally, I think this very much depends on what size you're printing, because if you're printing on a teeny tiny business card, that might not work out for you. For paper, it specifies standard thickness, printed on both sides if nothing shows through, which is quite important, and a theme we will notice about having a matte surface so it doesn't reflect the light, a light background, like no red or dark colors, maybe also no orange, and to have some margins between the lines to optimize readability. For the font, we also have our all-time favorites of Times New Roman or similar serif fonts. I think like Open Dyslexic, Atkins Hyperlink, we have a whole separate discussion on what the best fonts to use is. There's still something you have to put into context and consider, like you can use your brand fonts in most times, unless you have very specific brand fonts that might not work in all cases. But in most cases, you can use them. You just have to tweak them around for readability. So avoid italics, narrow character spacing, and use capitalization as normal. Yes, I don't think I'm going to read out everything, because you can pause and read through it, but everything here is quite similar to what we already know from the web content guidelines. We just have to put them into practice and apply a little bit of critical thinking. This is how we get them, like further requirements like use matte paper, because of course the web content guidelines won't tell you that. And in the end, we ended up with something a bit more like this. So it's not as eye-catching, but in the context of the product, I would argue that this is the point, to make it a bit toned down. We just settled for black on white, maximum contrast, and it will still be recognized from a distance because that's just a black box. But speaking of boxes, packaging material is also a big one. We did a bit of research on this. Again, we we went through the whole user journey, I would say, and thought like, okay, how will people receive the package and then unpack it? And one of our, interestingly, best recommendations and worst case recommendations were both the ORCAM. So the worst example we got, if we asked users, was the previous packaging, which I couldn't find an image of, unfortunately, but you can just imagine everything thrown into a box. And the newer version, where everything goes into its specific compartment. So everything has its own. Each little compartment holds a space, and you will know once you open the box, you know where everything is, because everything has a home, which inspired us to move from a box with, well, you do have a little slot in there, but it's still quite everything kind of shaky. And the real issue wasn't as much the box as the sleeve, which we discussed before, that goes around it, which is why we moved to something, again, more headphone inspired. So if you get high-end headphones, you usually also get a carry case with them. So why not use this image and just keep going with it, make it a solid hard case, something you can carry it in, something you can store it in, something that will be a home for your Sixth Sense. And again, just to conclude it, I think all of those things that we learned, none of these were actually, I would say, predictive. We didn't expect to find any of those. They just kind of popped up, and we realized, oh, this is actually quite a critical point for our user space. Like, if it doesn't work, if it's hard to take out of the box, it's not going to get used as much. If it's not stylish, it's not going to see the light of day much. But if we find something that we know our users will use because it's something that will adapt to their lifestyle, and they don't have to go out and adapt their lifestyle or their habits around technology, then it's something that we know people will like. So this is kind of the fast version of the story of the Sixth Sense.
Thanks a lot, Laura, for this very impressive presentation, and also the very user-centric approach, because it's always important to have the user in the center of all our things which we are thinking about. Yeah, when we develop a new product, when we do research, it's always so important to be user-centered and to see it or to think about how the people are using it, and how the people could use it, and how to make use of it, of course. Yeah, and also I think it's very interesting to see also your approach concerning the box, and also the whole things surrounding of the product, let's say. Yeah, and so this is a very holistic approach, and I think this is the most important thing, to think holistic if we develop a new product. What do you think?
Yes, I think this is what really sets apart just product development versus user-centric product development, because your user won't just see the technical side of it or the functionalities of it. They will experience the product from the start, from the moment they open it, or even from the moment they place the order, or even before, on how they hear about the product. They will experience it through that entire journey, not just the product itself and what it can do for them. You have to actually think about, okay, would I want to have this product? Do I think it would add me value? And do I feel seen in the way it is designed and it is marketed to me?
So there are so many aspects, and also I like the aspect also thinking about the offline products and the offline and the online. So it's very similar to think about things like this, like fonts, like sizes, like colors. So there are many aspects which are similar from the internet and websites, also to apps, and also to magazines and boxes, let's say. Yeah. So it's a closed circle, and you have to think all aspects about. So very interesting. Also, my question, what are the next steps? Or do you make tests with users right now with Sixth Sense to develop it further? So what are your plans right now?
Yes, we are in the end stages, and we are preparing. So the next step would be to get it actually to users and have them tested to get some more information on how it performs in real life settings, not just within, testing center, because it's always something you test and you never find all the things that could go wrong or that could be improved within a test setting. They will pop up later on in real life because things just do. The problems don't happen in the testing environment. They pop up on production.
Always. Yeah. So this is the project. We know always that the problems pop up when you do it. So it's
You don't expect them.
from IT side. We say it's an agile way. You have to check it in an agile way. Yeah. So that's it. Okay. Thanks a lot for this fabulous presentation. And with this, we continue, I think, with the panel discussion. Or should we take a break right now? Okay, we take a short break. How long should be the break?
About 5 to 10 minutes.
About let's say 10 minutes, a bio break for everybody, and when we continue, let's check the time. I think 5 minutes past 7. We will continue right now. So see you later. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to the World Usability Day, and now we will start our panel discussion, and I'm very happy that I see that some of you have rejoined us for this presentation and the panel discussion. And our topic will be emerging technologies again and human experience. And now, just to repeat, we have now 5 panelists here together with me. On my left side, Katharina Krösl from XREye. She just gave her presentation about XREye. Welcome, Katharina, again.
Thank you.
On my other side, Laura Wissiak. You just heard your presentation before the break concerning Sixth Sense. It was really interesting to listen to that. Hi, Laura.
Hello again.
Again. And on the side beside, outside here on our panel, also in the studio, is Alessandro Moloni. He's founder from Like Magic. He founded it in 2015, and he has a PhD in computer science from the Technical University in Graz. And he's also mobile developer at Hopetech. Welcome, Alessandro. And now looking to our online panelists, I hope they are there. I don't see it right now. Yes, I see them. Okay. I see Ibrahim Cherradi, because you can put on your camera that we can see you again. You are founder of the Keynoa Technologies. You founded it in 2020. And in your professional career, you are working at the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, since the unbelievable date from 1987. Sorry. And this is really also great work, I suppose. And then we have Elisa Savatia here. I don't see him. No, he's not here. Where? Not yet. So now I think we can start, and I would ask, first of all, because we heard the presentations from Katja and Laura, I will ask first Alessandro to start with a little bit a description. What do you do with your company since 10 years right now? Perhaps we can start in the panel talk like this.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So hello everyone. So at Like Magic, we are a small boutique software company. We specialize on making mobile apps for smart devices, smart wearables, any hardware that needs to interact with mobile phone and people, ultimately. We run several client projects. One of them is the Sixth Sense with Hopetech. All of them have in common that they have quite complex, very advanced hardware setup, and very high goals of usability on the other hand. So our work is to bridge these two things of a very complex setup, but making it invisible to the end users in a sense. That's where the Like Magic comes from. There's a quote from Clark, one of his laws. He was a scientific writer, inventor, very talented person, and he once said a very advanced technology is almost indistinguishable from magic, and that's where the name is loosely inspired from, and that's the whole concept behind the work we do. We take very complex systems, try to make them as usable and easily accessible as possible to the clients of our clients in the end.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe it a little bit more in detail for our listeners, because they are not so used perhaps to your technology and what you're doing right now, just to give them a little bit more closer description?
Yes, so maybe I start from, my background is in computer science, but also user experience design. My PhD was 50-50 in augmented reality back then, and then I switched to other types of technologies as well. We usually get engaged in a very interactive process with our clients and with their user groups, and sometimes iterate on the implementation of the hardware and the software behind it. Sometimes make mock-ups of the application, mobile application, and we evolve. We have a very broad expertise. That's the fact. We can do program hardware, we can do user experience mock-ups and everything in between. So we try to advance everything together until we get to the point that the hardware does what it's supposed to do, and people can access it easily as necessary.
And concerning now Sixth Sense, what is now can you describe your work a little bit more?
Yes,
right now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when we have Laura already, we have a team in London that does that. Some of them were in the pictures that Laura showed. That do a lot of studies and test sessions with people as well. I work very closely with them and get their feedback. Try to make as fast as possible tiny refinements to the application, the mobile application, as well as the software that runs on the Sixth Sense itself. And then they try to do weekly, at this stage where we're really pushing for getting this into the users' hands, on their necks.
Also on the necks, of course.
In particular on the necks, yes, and out on the street. Mm-hmm. We do almost weekly tests with people there in London, here in Vienna. And
how many people are involved? So how many people are involved in the test right now? So concerning the users you said it in London and in Vienna, how many people are involved?
I know 2-3 people in London for sure that are recurring experts in our team, I would say by now, since they're being involved for so long. We just had 2 people in Vienna a couple of weeks back. Maybe Laura, more.
Yeah, we usually go for about 3 to 5 people for organizing user tests. That is like specifically we want to test this and this thing for as many people as possible within a short period. But through just, I would say, personal interest from certain users, they have kind of built a friendly user group that we are very blessed with, because we can approach them with any idea we have. Even before it's a feature that is implemented, we can approach them like, hey, we have this brainchild, like, what do you think? Like, what's your input on this? And they give us very candid feedback. So I would say across UK and Austria, we have 5 people who are our user advisory board, who are the first people we go to and approach with ideas.
What is more difficult in London to test and to find people in London who want to test this sort of hardware and also the mobile app, or is it much more if you compare it, so Austria to Great Britain?
Interesting. I think at the current stage, it is for us quite easy in both countries because we've already established connections with partners in both countries. So, for example, here in Austria, we have Access Austria, the Hilfsgemeinschaft, which is a very, very strong partner for us, and it does great work connecting us with people who are, number 1, interested in testing it, and number 2, also fit the user profile that we are looking for. So if we need someone who is very mobile on their own, or someone who rarely goes out on their own, we can actually, approach the Access Austria representative with this requirements. Like, we want someone who uses the white kit, or someone who has a guide dog, or someone who has experience with both, and we want to test out this and this at this time, and we usually get quite a list of potential participants back, which then again is great for finding people and also working out who is interested and what our target user group would be.
So the tests are currently running, if I got it right, or what is the plan for the test right now? So what is the process? How did you plan it?
I think in contrast to what Laura said from Vienna and London, in the UK actually, but just also in Bristol, we have a couple of people who have been involved for a very long time, so there are more consultants by now on the usability side. One of them is, that's also an interesting point, one of them his work is to train other blind people to get used to technology and how to approach technology, how to use technology to improve their lives. So he's a blind person, but also a mentor for other blind people. And he's also consulting us. So yeah, I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but in Vienna we do a bit more extensive tests and more sporadic. In London we do more weekly sessions with a few people we know well and have been involved along to validate improvements.
And how is the feedback so far for the mobile app? Because it's always connecting the hardware and of course the software side and to bring it together.
Yeah, well, the hardware is independent of the mobile app. Maybe I should specify that.
Okay.
So it can work without the mobile app. The mobile app adds extra features like navigation, in the sense of going from A to B through a path. The device itself warns you of obstacles without any mobile app.
This was also a core principle from the start. Sorry to
No.
Yeah.
Just add, please.
The idea behind this was that while it is nice to have an app for additional features, it should always be possible to use the device independent of internet connection, independent of you don't need to download an app, but it gives you extra features.
Okay, very, very interesting so far.
Maybe just add to
yes, of
the
course,
second
please.
part of your question.
Yeah.
We got very good feedback on the accessibility of the application, which was a focus from the beginning of the development. So it was not something we added afterwards. It was obvious especially from our user group, we would need to develop the app. And so the visible interface and the accessible interface in parallel. And we put a lot of extra efforts from the beginning to make the user interface simple and essential enough that also the navigation through other means like text-to-speech would be very smooth and very simple. And that was recognized as a much higher accessibility standard than most other navigation apps that the people that tested it have tried so far.
On the app part, it's also important to notice that we tested it with both people who have very high-tech literacy, so people who use multiple screen readers, for example, and can tell you the differences between them in their sleep almost, versus people who use screen readers because they have to and they don't really think it's a joy, which is, I've been at a discussion earlier today where someone said that the thing is with assistive technology, you don't really use it because you want to use it. You kind of have to. And there's never this kind of joy of use attached to it because it's just something that gets the job done. So it was quite a big consideration, I would say, to develop both user groups, so not just the high-tech literacy people, which can make it work, but also the people who might get deterred if it doesn't work in the first term, and who you really have to ease into this. Might take a while to set it up, but don't worry, we'll take your hand, we'll guide you through this step by step.
It's a very important point. I agree. So not to look also on people who are very high-tech, used to use also high-tech and are pioneers and are fascinated from high-tech, let's say. Yeah. So this is a big difference to people who are not very willing to use the new technologies or not willing to change things. Yeah, so I'm coming from the IT sector, and it's always hard to bring people to use new technologies. Yeah, because we want to never change a running system. Let's say. Yeah, it's an old slogan which we all know from the IT sector. So it's very important to differentiate and to see the different people and different types of people, yeah, using the technologies. And we are talking about emerging technologies today. So with this, I'm looking to our online guests, or we should please don't forget to use the chat and to ask also questions in the chat. We will have an eye of that. And you are always invited to ask also questions, of course. Ibrahim, just to invite you to take part in our panel talk right now. I think you're coming on stage. And I would also ask you to introduce a little bit what you do, very interesting with Keynoa, just to give our audience an impression what's going on, because it's also very innovative, seeing more with the fingers. This is your approach, let's say. And yeah, I just ask you to join us on stage, please. Hope you can hear us. No, not yes, it works. Hi, nice to see you here. Just unmute you, please. I think you're muted right now.
I am very sorry because I am in a very noisy environment in Paris.
That's no problem. We can hear you perfectly.
Very good. I don't have my presentation ready, so I will try just to kind of do with what is possible.
Of course.
And I'm sorry about that.
With pleasure.
So
just give us a short introduction. What do you do with Keynoa?
Okay, in few words, with the Keynoa, you can see, blind people can see with the fingers to some extent. So you have 5 rings. Yes, go ahead. Sorry about this situation. It was not planned.
No problem. Just continue.
Okay, so normally I should have been in Vienna now, but I am in Paris. In Paris, there is a very important conference on Louis Braille, 200 years. It's a very much related topic to what you have been saying until now. I've been listening to you. So I'm here to also present Keynoa to this environment, because we are part now of what is called Campus Louis Braille. We are really at the heart of the origin of the Braille here in this location. This is as introduction. Now, Keynoa allows blind people to see with their fingers to some extent. It means that we can, with the means of 5 rings worn in 1 or 2 hands, we can read in any language in few minutes. We can read and write the Braille, and also we can discover infographics. Can it be geographical maps, anatomical descriptions, and recently we are working with the Museum of Louvre to bring paintings to the fingers of blind people. So we have recently created some images which can be loaded to Keynoa application with artificial intelligence. So if you are familiar with Claude artificial intelligence, it has just created for us a painting representation which blind people can discover with interactively on their smartphone or on their tablets. And this can be declined to any other visual infographics. Can it be mathematics? Also, for example, today we were demonstrating for electronical engineers circuits with different components, etc., etc.
Very interesting, very impressive. How many people are using the Keynoa technology right now?
Yes, now you are touching the very important subject, is that I want to say, when you are developing new solutions, it's very important not to bring a solution and look for a problem. It's very important to start with the problem and look for solutions. You can have very good solutions, brilliant solutions, but the users will not use them because there are many reasons. There are much more reasons not to use them than to use them, even if they are really brilliant and very elegant and very nice. So now we are in the situation where we are bringing a new approach, totally new approach. We have to change the habits slowly. But to change the habits, it's something that is much more complex than the technical aspects themselves. So we are, fortunately, we have people who are blind, who are working with us in Vienna, in Paris, in Brazil. So the answer to your question, how many? I think the number is still not very high. But what is interesting is the level of evolution. It's not the level, it's not the quantification, but the rate of acceptation and the rate of adoption of the method. So the answer to your question, there are only, let's say, we are about now 50 persons who are using Keynoa, which is still a low number, but we are on the steep growing slope.
I mean, how is the acceptance rate right now? What is the feedback the users gave you so far?
The acceptance rate is starting to become important, which for us very important, because at the beginning we had almost zero acceptance. Zero acceptance because something totally new is takes time. So people, they see you and then they come back 6 months later, 1 year later, and at that time they start to grasp the essence of what you are doing. So here in this field, we are in the heart of the Braille world. And for example, at the beginning, we were cataloged as people who want to replace the Braille. So, and the doors were closed to us. So it means that we had not enough users among the Braille experts. But now that they realize that we are, in the contrary, supporting the Braille, we are offering new means for the Braille to expand, and also new means for the Braille to be in accordance with the new and the future of IT and artificial intelligence. We are slowly becoming accepted, if I can say. It's the most difficult aspect of our approach. It's not really technical. Yes, the technical aspects are a bit complicated, but we can solve them. But the human aspect is much more, how can I say, difficult to approach.
A really an
I don't know if
important
you have
point.
answered your question.
Yeah. It's not a question of technology very often. We see that. We know that also from research, because we are doing user accessibility research at the AIT, so we know that as well. It's always a question of the human, right? We have to keep an eye of that, of course. Yeah. So I totally agree with that. What do you think in the round? I just look around. Katharina, did you have something?
Yes, definitely. I mean, that's the thing, putting the human in the center, right? I mean, it's really important that you, for example, like Laura, you're working with the people you're designing for, because otherwise you design a product that no one would need or use in the end. And for us, it's also really important not to come up with some simulations, but actually to talk to people who have certain vision impairments and ask them about their experiences. How does it look like for them? What are their challenges? So we get a deeper understanding on how our simulations have to look like. So I think it doesn't matter what kind of technology you develop. If it's technology for humans, then you have to put the human in the center.
Right. I agree totally. So we put the human in the center. It's a really, really important principle, let's say, that we have to focus on. I think we all agree about that. But how to do that is not easy sometimes. Yeah, it's also a question how to include and how to integrate people, how to bring them also, and also that we discussed before the different types of users. Yeah, this is always very important to have an eye on that. Ibrahim, what's your next steps? Can you hear me? What are your next steps right now? And your next plan?
Okay. We have a technical next step is we are moving now to fully wireless hardware. It means that we have only 5 rings, totally identical, no wires that directly connected to your phone. This is the next step we are working on. Hopefully, the beginning of 2026, we will be ready. We had a lot of difficulties to produce something like that. We've been working on this for a long time. So this is the next step technically. The one step we have succeeded to reach, and that was already achieved, is we are now Keynoa Rings is a totally compatible HID display, Braille display. I don't know if you are familiar with Braille displays. So now, when you connect Keynoa Rings to a smartphone which is running, or a computer or a tablet which is running screen reader. I'm trying to connect my phone because it's running out of. I want to say it's very important. It's very important that yes. I'm sorry because it's very difficult situation I have here, but we will manage. So just bear with me. It's very rock and roll situation here. Sorry. It's very challenging. I'm just trying to see. Okay, I solved the problem of the power. Very good. Okay, now what I want to say is now Keynoa Rings is a fully HID Braille display. It means that Keynoa Rings can connect to any screen reader. It is right away recognized as a Braille display. It means that you can read and write. For example, if you connect to an iPhone, you take, for example, VoiceOver will right away recognize Keynoa Rings as an HID Braille display and sends the information to it the same way it sends it to an usual Braille display, and then it accepts also information and comments. You can keep your iPhone in the pocket and fully control it from the rings. So, and we are very proud of this. It was very difficult to achieve. We did it. So these are the 2 technical aspects. Now, the next more social steps is we are starting what we call pilot projects. We have a pilot project with the Institute of Benjamin Constant in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. Very nice people, extremely helpful. That is going to start soon. There are 2 aspects to this project. The usability of Braille using the rings, and also artistic and educational discovery and the learning of infographics, which we call KIGIs, Keynoa Interactive Graphic Images. The next project the next challenge, next step is we're trying to work with the Louvre here in Paris to give accessibility to paintings. We just recently developed using Claude artificial intelligence a representation of La Joconde or Mona Lisa. So the blind person can discover the painting on the tablet or on the smartphone, discovering in an interactive way how, for example, Da Vinci created this painting with all the subtleties and etc. etc. So in terms of projects, we have also here in Paris the project of working with the Institut des Jeunes Aveugles, the Institute of the Young Blind. Here in Paris, it's a very important institution. It's actually the place where I am standing now. We are also starting an important project of cooperation with them. So.
I'm missing Vienna. Perhaps you come to Vienna as well, to the AIT. would be fascinating.
So I never forget to say that this is an Austrian project. So even though I'm in Paris, I say I am representing Vienna because I am Austrian. So Keynoa is an Austrian project. Please don't forget that.
Perfect, perfect. So thanks so far. I'm looking at Julia. Is Eddie arrived so far? No, because I don't see that.
Yeah, unfortunately, no.
So
if not, we will continue because we have some questions. One question would be, what do you think the future holds for usability? Holds for us for usability and user experience? Discuss emerging trends or technologies that you believe will shape the way we design for usability in the coming years. Who wants to take this question? Of you all? Laura?
I can start because I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a very broad question.
Yeah, I mean, of course, fitting with this year's topic of emerging technologies, because I feel we're at the point where we have seen a lot of different technologies. So we have seen blockchain, we have seen AI, we have seen AR. So there is already a lot of it, but I feel like none of us is, unless we're specialized in that, we're not as familiar. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing accessibility implementation instead. And I know for some of them, it will depend on context, like what you're using it for. But for example, AR is still something that is just undiscovered and untouched when it comes to accessibility. We don't really have particular guidelines for it, or it's just so new that you don't really know what to do with it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like
we can discuss it.
Is there anything where I say that, oh yeah, specifically for AR, you have to consider this? Mm-hmm. What's your...
That's actually a valid point in your raise. I mean, it's a quite new field, you know, virtual and augmented reality actually, or XR as an umbrella term. And I have seen some initiatives rising in the last couple of years where people actually try to bring XR and accessibility together. Mm-hmm. So there was the Axtool seminar like 2 years ago that I attended, where actually a lot of XR researchers came together, and also some stakeholders, some accessibility experts, mm-hmm. and discussed how XR technologies can aid accessibility, and also how XR technologies can be made accessible. And there it was quite apparent that we lack a standard here, that we lack guidelines, like you have the web accessibility guidelines, but there was nothing like this tailored to extended reality yet. So this is definitely something where I see we have a lot to catch up here. And I'm sure there will be some more research and some developments in that area. I hope to see something in the next few years.
I want to give the question to Alessandro, because you're also a computer specialist in the field of augmented reality. And also the interesting question is how to combine also the new emerging technologies.
Yeah, on the augmented reality side, I think the technology has been for 20 years very biased towards vision and not the other 4 senses. I was working with another company here in Vienna, for example, where we did augmented audio for blind people for navigation. So giving them 3D placed beacons of sound to guide them. There's of course smell, there is tactile. We could argue that the sixth sense with vibrations that regard where the obstacle is a way of augmenting tactile senses. So there is work emerging. Will be probably more work, especially in audio. Probably is the first big sense that may make the technology more accessible. In terms of not just text to speech, I'm talking about 3D experience, but smell is probably one of the furthest away together with taste. These are challenging. So I think we could broaden the spectrum to all 5 senses in a sense. On the other emerging technologies, so the broader question, I think I would say embedded, small embedded devices, small embedded sensors, networks of things, small things, cheap things that sense what you do, and challenge of making that accessible to people, meaningful to people who are not tech savvy, who cannot program them themselves, because they're getting cheaper and cheaper, they get ubiquitous. Anything in your house starts to be potentially a point of information that could help you, not just track you for marketing or other reasons, but really help you. And that's one of the interesting challenges, I think, to make this network talk together and give some value back to the people in an accessible way, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, also to give the value and the value to people. Yeah, technology is not technology for itself. Technology should be for the people and should give value to the people. But the question is how to combine all these technologies and how to also IoT. You mentioned IoT and sensors. Yeah, we see a lot of evolution in the field of sensors so far, especially in the last few years, and also I see also the connecting point is now here. We have the processors for AI concern. If you talk about AI, of course, yeah, we see the connectivity, we see the processors, we see the data. We can combine it, and also in the course of assistive technologies, of course, yeah. Also, like you did do it, Ibrahim, with Keynoa. What's your opinion concerning the converging and the combination of technologies? Also with the focus of user experience, of course.
You know, it's very important to look for synergies between different solutions. And we see that in our case here with France, it's because we've been able to identify synergies between different technologies that we are present. And this is one aspect, but the most important aspect not to forget is really not to forget the end user. Always work with the end users, work with the blind people, because you can put yourself as much as possible in the shoes of blind people, but you will never really feel what they really have to solve. Listen to the end users, sit with them, get impregnated by their real problems, and try to address them. Even if it requires that you change the cap of your strategy, just be always aware that you can spend a lot of time and effort developing brilliant ideas that will be just at the end part of a museum of non-used applications or solutions. Be always aware of that. It's very important that you follow and be totally conscious of what is the need, what accessibility solutions are needed, what are the real problems to address. It's very important.
Yes, I'm sure, I agree. But how is it possible? Let's take a look at AI. It's a very big topic, a very broad topic. Database solutions to find really new ways for assistive systems, for example, which is now taking place, and there was a lot of progress in the last few years. How do you think it will continue? That's the question around. It's a big question, I know. Laura.
It is. But I hope to see more user-centric development because I feel at the moment it has been the other way around. So we have been developing the technology for the sake of for just the sake of progress for something, but unclear with which direction or which target we're going towards. And every benefit for a user has been kind of like a side effect of it. So the thing is with AI in particular, I've seen so many jokes about it, and half jokes, half truths, that why is it doing like all the fun stuff, but not the things that are actually work and that I would like to do less of. So obviously, it would be very cool if we could go more in that direction. But as Alessandro said, it's also very dependent on which points of interest and which parts of technology actually can give you value. And this is something I haven't actually heard much discussion of, and so that's something that I do hope we will develop further, because we have so many points of access, so many points of interest, and so many different points. If you think, for example, smart home technologies, all of those are different interfaces, and they give us different interactions with our own life, our everyday life. But there's not much conversation happening between those points. Everything is very much doing its own thing. Like you have your vacuum cleaner, you have your smart home thermostat, you have your ambience sound machine, whatever. But they don't much work together at the moment unless you very meticulously set them up and tell them how to interact and do what at the same time. But they're not really working for you. They just do what you're told.
How do you see that? Referring to that?
Well, especially when we talk about the AI topic, it's like people think now AI is here, it will solve everything, it will make everything better. But as Laura mentioned, I think there is just we haven't really defined the use cases where AI can really be beneficial, can add value. I mean, now it's like it's here and can do everything, so we try to do everything with it. But I think there are some use cases, some area where, especially combining AI with different technologies, also using AI in combination with virtual reality, with augmented reality, can really help us develop cool new things and add value. But we have to look at these use cases. We have to find out where does it make sense and where is it just hype, or where do we just don't know yet how to use it properly.
Do you have also something to add?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with the last points in particular. I think I've expanded a bit also to what Ibrahim before said. I think I'm using AI a lot in my work for some very tiny specific tasks, for some very specific problems that I have and some of my colleagues have. You can look at the discussion says that there is, you have to put the user in the center, but there is no user, right? There's 8 billion users and trillions of problems. So also for the sixth sense, I can think of at least 3-4 different types of users of our application. So it boils down to finding very specific problems of very specific groups of people that you can solve with that, which is definitely not what some of the funny apps do, just because you can do it. But there are applications of AI that I use daily that make my work much simpler and take some pain points away from my daily routines. And that applies also to the apps that we're developing, of putting the user in the center and finding out what each user thinks about the problems, and trying to find a mix of solutions that address the different needs of the different users, not just putting together all users into one big application that in the end doesn't serve anyone well as it could.
Yeah, of course. Coming back to another point, a question of money, let's say, so looking at the time, of course, but I think it's also very important to have a close eye on how is going the process from the prototype to the market, to the people, to the mass, let's say, yeah? And how do you say? Because I see a lot of prototypes and a lot of ideas looking back to the last 20 years, because I'm very long in the field of IT and also technology, seeing technologies emerging and developing, and also product development. But sometimes there comes the point, you have the product, you have the idea, you have the prototype, but then it fails going to the market. So how do you deal with this problem? Let's say you're now in the field that you have already, you have a product, let's say.
We have this problem.
Yeah, you have the product. And what are your expectations, or do you see this problem? How do you deal with that?
Definitely, and I think it is a very much localized problem because it will be different depending on where you are in the world. So since disability is like often regarded as like a whole thing, like accessibility is like one big pot, but somehow people think it's like one problem. Like I thought about this because Alessandro mentioned that you group a lot of people with different problems together, and this is kind of what we tend to do with accessibility. We think like it is one problem to solve, and we kind of, by saying that, we kind of do lump every person with a disability into one group and say like, okay, you're one person now, and you get one solution, which kind of restricts all the flexibility we have around the user experience. But coming back to disability as a whole is not just defined by what if you have a physical disability or how you experience the world, how you interact. It is very much also a social problem, depending on where you live, where you work. That will kind of determine your access requirements, and also like what you are able to access in terms of support systems, in terms of what types of accessibility are available. So both in infrastructure as well as in assistive tech, because assistive tech in one market doesn't always translate to the other, or it may just not be available for purchase in one market. But if we're looking a bit beyond that, even if it's available in the market, it might not be reimbursed by your insurance provider, or it might not be covered for your particular diagnosis. So all of these systems, we've looked at like how are the support systems around reimbursing, what is the user buyer journey actually? Because in my opinion, the user journey doesn't end unless the user has the product, has tried it, and like confidently can make an informed decision about it. I would say it doesn't have to be a good or a bad decision. They don't have to like the product, but I want them to be able to make an informed decision, as in I've tried it, I've tested it, it works for me, or it doesn't work for me. It's not my piece of cake here. And the systems you live in determine so much of what you can actually try out, what you can access, and what you can ultimately integrate into your daily routine. So what we are looking for is really understanding the systems around it before we enter a new market. Because if you just plunge into the market without any plan, you're likely going to drown there.
Sure. I'm also interested, Ibrahim, what's your approach going to the market and to reach out the market and go to people? Which problems do you face, and how do you handle it?
Okay, if you want to go to the market, you have to know what you are doing. Are you willing to go to the market to really make benefits, or are you going to the market to help people? These are two different approaches. If you want to go to the market to make benefits, you have to go to the large markets. Europe, Occidental countries are not large markets. Large markets are India, Africa, Asia. This is the large market. But you have to, at the same time, realize that the margin of benefits in those countries is much less. So you have a much larger market, but you have to consider to optimize the cost of production in order to meet the market abilities. So I've been told at the very beginning when I came to this business, that they told me, don't go to America, don't go to Europe, go to India, go to Africa. This is the main domain of the large market. But I said, I'm not looking for market. Keynoa is a bit different from the other companies or startups, or because our aim is not really to make money. We need money to develop more, but we don't want to make money for a living. I can understand that there are some young startups with young people. They want to make money for a living, so they look at the market. We have a different approach in Keynoa. We want to help. For that, we need a bit of money. So if you are really looking for money, look for the right market. First of all, in Europe, in comparison, there are much less blind people I'm talking about blind people or visually impaired people. So this is my way of looking at the situation. Yes, did you have to say something?
Yeah, no, thanks a lot for this interesting opinion, and also your approach to go to India or Africa.
Yes, it's a bit different.
Of course, it's a big difference in the approach. Because Katharina, you just showed us before a little bit about your business strategy, but what do you think about coming to the market and getting along?
Yeah, well, I mean, and we are developing a software, and most computer scientists or software engineers, they will know very well the feeling that when you develop a software, it's never really finished. There's always something you can improve, and so we will or we plan to release licenses for our software next year. But for us, it was really important to already test our software in the market, test it with the users, see where are the people that are interested in our product. So that's why we decided to offer these event experiences. And we realized that people are actually really fond of just booking you, so you come with everything and they don't have to take care, and you provide this experience, you provide your expertise. And it also gives us the opportunity to talk to people, to test our solution, to see what's important to our users. And that's kind of our strategy, like test it early, even if it's not finished yet. So you can improve it and you see which direction you should go.
Test it early is a very important thing, of course, from the very beginning on. You start also the testing. Everybody who develops software knows that, for sure. But also it's a win-win situation to work together with the companies, of course, because everybody takes a profit with it.
Definitely. And we still have capabilities. If someone wants to book us for an event this year,
we make some promotion about that. Of course. But we have some questions. I'm looking at the time, but we have some 10 minutes left, I suppose. We have two questions, which are a little bit similar, but I want to take them. Questions from Kehinde. I suppose, I don't know if the rest from Africa, I don't know. How can we strike the right balance between AI innovation, usability, and accessibility in today's digital world? I think it's very important because it also combines AI innovation, usability, and accessibility. Laura, do you want to take it?
I believe that these three things are quite intertwined. So accessibility is always the foundation of usability. If you can't physically, or if you physically can't use the product, it's not going to be a good user experience. Also, if it won't work on your end, be it a smartphone, be it any kind of device that you're trying to access with, if it's not working, you can't talk about usability. So accessibility is very much still the foundation. Like no matter what the platform we are talking about, it has to work in order to be usable and to be considered a good user experience. And innovation is then the next step beyond that. If we can talk about something being innovative, like we all believe industrializations we develop strongly. This is kind of what keeps you trying harder and harder and improving. But ultimately the market will decide what is innovative. So people will pick it up or won't, depending on how it's going to add value to them, like what they see as innovative. So anytime I hear like the word innovation, it always depends, like is it that's label coming from the people, or is it coming from the marketing side?
Okay, I see. Anyone else wants to add something to this question? Alessandro?
I think also hooking to Katharina's comment, I think you have to evolve the all three in parallel, and you can start very early. You don't need to make a perfect AI agent before you can start looking at that. Any AI agent, without naming any, but any of them that we know now could be simulated by someone next room typing on a computer, right?
Right.
And then you could already test some usability, accessibility elements of it. So I think the three things need to evolve in parallel. And we tend to have the risk in software and hardware as well to make things work really well before we're super happy, and we start with the rest, which is a usability. And then when that's done, we start with accessibility. That's not how it should work, in my opinion. I think the three can work together. Technology can be very easily prototyped now. If it's a very early stage, it can be very easily simulated. And I would look at the balance from the beginning with the very first trials without maybe even having an implementation.
And then our question is also, the next question is also very interesting, because it is focusing also on the intuitive, to make the solutions intuitive. And that's also a very important point, which we didn't mention so far, but it's also very important. What do you think about it? What strategies, I read it for everybody, what strategies can designers and testers use to make AI-driven products intuitive and inclusive? So just to ask you, or?
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one, yeah.
AI-driven products. Well, I think it really comes down to testing, because I think every time when we innovate, we make mistakes. At the beginning, it's all trial and error. Nothing will be perfect. Nothing will be accessible or inclusive from the start. But if we start out with that mindset that we want to have an intuitive and inclusive solution, if we think of this from the beginning, I think we have a much higher chance to arrive at a product that really fulfills this.
Just to jump in there,
Yeah, of course.
I think in the sense of inclusion in particular, it is often like a bit confused with compliance, because there are specific guidelines that tell us like, hey, do this, this, and this, and then you're good. But what I often see is that there's a difference between something being inclusive in theory, like it checks the box, it has everything it's supposed to do, and then being inclusive in practice, where you actually sit down with the user and you see they can do everything that you want them to be able to do with this product, with this service on their own, in a way that is comfortable for them. Because so many times accessibility is more a way to an end. So it works because people have to make it work, because they want to access your product. They want to be able to get this experience or to go through this user flow, because they have a goal here, they have a task, and they want to see it through. And your software, for example, is just a means to an end. Like, it is the path they have to go down in order to download this product or to place this order or whatever. And it often comes down to just how much grit and determination this individual has. And this is something I don't really see represented much in the broader discourse about digital inclusion, because we tend to focus so much on the systems and like, how can we make this system perfect and make it work and make sure we prevent any type of problem further down the line, that we kind of constrict ourselves in a maze of regulations and our own, and maybe our own company standards, don't forget, like at the end, there's still just a person trying to make it work on their machine to the best of their abilities, and 7 out of 10 times they're frustrated about it right now. So any small progress you can already offer them today is gonna be more beneficial to them today than the perfect solution in like 5 years, which is still an optimistic estimate, I would say.
Very optimistic. The perfect solution is
Only 5 years away.
The perfect solution for whom is the question. No?
Exactly.
Alessandro?
Yeah, for the intuitiveness, probably one strategy is to start with one thing and do it well. So if you can name it in one sentence or make your grandma understand it with one sentence, that's a really good starting point to know that you're doing one thing, right? And you can explain it. For the inclusiveness, you have to expand your test groups. We did tens of different interfaces when I was doing my PhD, and we tested them. And the tendency is always to start with your colleagues. So you have very IT, a lot of mail, very IT, very technical, very advanced people. As soon as you start expanding, you call in your friends who are not IT people, and the results change a lot, right? So expand. You have to be inclusive in the people that try and give you feedback.
Inclusive and diverse.
Inclusive and diverse, yeah. And then immediately you have diverse feedback.
Ibrahim, what do you think? Oh, you're muted.
No, I like this question. It's a very important aspect. Intuitivity, it borders also with standards. So if your innovation, your idea has already some overlapping with existing solutions, don't reinvent the wheel. Use whatever is already existing so that the people are familiar with the solutions you are proposing them. Let's say, for example, I come back to Keynoa. Keynoa is this method which started at the beginning to offer people the possibility to read and write in any language. That's how it started for blind people. With a new approach, which now is called simplified braille or 10 dots braille. Okay? But it means that the blind person has to learn a new method. Even though the method is very simple and can be learned in few minutes, it is a new method. So even though it is very intuitive, it's not enough. Intuition is not enough. So when we moved to the possibility to give to braille people who can read and write the braille, the possibility to use Keynoa rings to read and write the braille, we had a jump in our acceptability, because we are giving them the possibility to use what they know already. So what is important is not enough to have an intuitive ergonomic approach, but also not to force people to change totally their habits. So whatever is already existing, make use of it as much as possible. Don't reinvent the wheel. It's a very important question.
Very important. Thanks for this really good statement. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, and I agree totally. Thanks a lot.
I'm sorry for the noise. Sorry for the noise.
No. I just it's a little bit hard to listen, but
Yes, I get it. I will switch off my mic.
No problem. I think we come to the final round right now because the time is really running by. And I would like to ask you for the final summing up. What are now your expectations and your hopefully optimistic visions for the emerging technologies? And I would ask Alessandro to start, perhaps.
Yeah, we briefly touched on that already. I think embedded technology and improvements in the way it communicates. There are new standards coming out. Doesn't matter. There's which is smart home standard in a sense for communicating between different manufacturers, for example. So with that, on top of that, with standards, with lots of devices available, there will come people who can easily make very focused applications way more easily to address very specific people's problems, I think.
Okay, thanks for that. Hopetech is your name, so what are your hopes and expectations?
Very nice one. I will steal that one. I think tying into what Ibrahim and Alessandra also said, I hope for more standardization because I feel it will make it easier to innovate based on that. Because if you have a baseline of user accepted and tried and tested standards across different types of devices, platforms, technologies, it will make it so much easier to build new things based on that because you already have something, as Ibrahim said, that is already present within the user's mind and their habits.
Okay,
So I'm looking for more standards.
I understand that. So more standards, Katharina?
Well, I think I speak for everyone here when I say we hope for a more accessible and inclusive society. And we're all trying to do our part with this, with our products, with our companies. And I think emerging technologies will just enable us to see other perspectives and broaden our horizon and also hopefully bring us one step closer to this more inclusive society.
Okay, thanks also for this point. Very good. Final words to Ibrahim, please. What's your hope and expectation concerning the emerging technologies? And just unmute, please.
Okay, I think what is very important is that we are all the same players in the same team. For a team to success, we have to play as a team, not as individuals. Let's look for our common synergies. Let's cooperate, all of us, because at the end of the day, we want to help blind people. We want to help disabled people. And if we are all in our corners trying to solve our problems and difficulties in our by our means, it's going to be much more difficult than if we are all one team and try to find our common solutions, our common problems, and find and exchange, communicate. It's very important. I've seen that really here in France. We have started to work a lot with different companies, which at the beginning looked not of very common interest and not overlapping areas of concern. But when you think, when you do efforts, you find those common points. You have electronic problems to solve. You have IT problems to solve. You have human social problems to solve. You find common solutions together. So please, let's all work in one team.
That's a perfect final word. Thanks a lot, Ibrahim. And I would add, we should always think, have in our minds to make the world better for the people. I think that we can all agree about that. And that's the same what you said right now, Ibrahim. So thanks a lot. And thanks for the very good panel discussion to all of you, Alessandro, Laura, Katharina, and Ibrahim. I'm very pleased that you have discussed several points, and let's make the world better with emerging technologies. With that, I come back to Julia. Thanks a lot. See you.
Yeah, so thank you for tonight's speakers and our amazing moderator, Christine Wahlmüller-Schiller, who was taking us through this event tonight, and to all of you bringing your attention, your questions, and your energy. Happy World Usability Day, and here's to the next 20 years of making technology better, work better for everyone. Thank you.